Hello, welcome to episode 2 of my podcast, NoWhere. My name is Allie with a.Marie.Speaks, and these are video podcast sessions lost in transition somewhere. Since I have been locked out or kicked out of Spotify, it is May 14th, 2025, and I have been out of Spotify now, I don't know, 6 months maybe, I forget. I think it's been since October. Or maybe a little earlier than that, 2024. But in the interim of deciding what to do, right, or where to host or share my content at, I've just started doing this, putting them up on YouTube and BitChute in the interim. So thank you for finding me here, wherever and whenever you are listening. I really appreciate your audience and your time. Today I am going to be talking a bit about listening, how ironic, and the partnership and the balance that listening is, and how and what balance really is and looks like. Trying to tie in and sort of kick ground around phi, the golden mean, right? The spiral and math involved with what I'm calling perfect, imperfect sharing. And Mother Earth, and this ties into as well because her energy, the essence and themes and concepts that come along with her in organic life, nature, the way that systems share symbiotically, why growth happens, why there's beauty and symmetry, and also why there is disorganization and organization, and why something like perfect sharing and what we would call equality, equal, is not equal halves. It's not straight down the middle 1.5. Cut it in half. It's the phi, the golden mean, right? This beautiful created spiral that happens is with the number 618, excuse me. And that goes on and on. And there's some controversy about what that number really is, and also and how we calculate it. If you're really interested in that and you love math, you might already know Jane 108. But if you don't and you've never heard of Jane, Jain, as in Jane, the religion, right? 108, you can check it out. Or is it philosophy? No, I've called it a religion, and not quite. I think it is. More of a philosophical type. I'm gonna be sounding completely ignorant. Oh well, let's keep it and leave it. I could pause it and go cut it out, but I think I'll just leave this here for transparency and honesty. Why not? In the honor of imperfectness and in studentship, and I don't know everything. And even though I've bounced across that and I've followed Jane 108 for quite a while, Jainism, I believe it is. I think it's sort of an offshoot of Hinduism. I believe it's something like Hinduism. They say is not a religion either. Don't they sometimes argue that? Who knows? They, with their coats and their eyeglasses and all their studies and their peer reviewing, these penguins, right, and their lab rat friends, they've got a million things to prove what they believe is right and you're wrong. So let's not even have that conversation. Can we just agree that whatever, doesn't even matter what we're talking about? We're here to get along, not to find disagreements. And again, this is what imperfect sharing is about. And just moving on, just cutting it, giving who deserves what. And there is, there's hardship, there's a growth, there's catalytic happenings, We're in a space of formation, right? Of solid things with form and dimension. There's edges, there's roughness, there's all types of contrasts and duality as well, right? Comes into play. And so, the more and more I live my life and seek balance and seek harmonious solutions and seek to align my system myself in positive manners and energetics, these things make so much sense. I get back to the foundational things that I've heard about for 10, 20 years, and I see them with new eyes in a new way because of, accepting and working towards this unconditional love, this allowing imagination space and to build potentials and possibilities out there in the positive realms, in the positive space, and give them weight. Not just say, oh, that'll never happen because X, Y, and Z, and drag it back down into 3D matrix and say, oh, it has to be these constraintings, it has to follow these constrictions and restrictions and be orchestrated in a way that it signifies and serves the system matrix that's already here, because that's the only way that it will come. And the future doesn't come that way. Innovation and change doesn't happen like that whatsoever. It happens in infinite ways, but that planned is not one of them. I can say that. And this is the beauty, again, about why the half, why sharing, perfect imperfect sharing, isn't just 1.5. It's not straight down the middle. And anyone who has 2 children, knows this, and to bring it back to mothering and Mother Nature and why it has to do with and how it sings so beautifully in harmony with these, themes, and we play these roles out. And we can find guidance and truth, I believe, in seeing external confirmations and it playing out in its own way, mothering, sharing, solution finding, waking a way through. What's better to know how to do that than to watch plant life? The rose that grew through concrete kind of image. The tree, the new baby tree sprouting out of the dead tree right at the top. All these kind of epic images that we have to signify life goes on. Nature's miraculous. It's not always what we think will happens. But I think, again, we want to put these as miracles as something that's super rare, sporadic, and large. And in fact, they're small, great in multitude, and they're so personal that others look by them, and that you could kind of say you can excuse them away if you so choose to not be grateful for yours. But in seeking positive life for myself and unconditional love and happiness in general, for a neutral setting for me, this has come around to be blatant. Duh. And not even in a bad way, in a way that I can laugh at myself, not in a way that I'm saying to making fun of either, to be put myself down. It's more of a way to laugh at and let go of that stagnant energies that would accumulate and that are sort of, they do happen, but when we laugh at them lightly and when we make sense of them and learn lessons from them and see that it's an older version of ourselves that we've stepped out of now, it doesn't have an effect on us who we are now. In fact, we ourselves now laugh at that person now. It's freeing. Positive systems teach us this as well. They can't hold on to old things. It doesn't work that way. Same thing with the spiral in itself. When we see how the spiral is created, there's no 90-degree angles. There's no sharp turns. It's a very gradual happening and gradient. And I have a good visual. I hope I will be including with this video podcast, but we'll see. If not, I might just share it. I've already shared some of it in Telegram. I'll share again and put up perhaps over on the community tab at YouTube the sort of sketches. But basically, it's how we have a nice curve in the spiral, and if we had angular, sort of rectangular spiralation, like you see Zen drawings that create with the corners around, that is bending of light. That is creating corners for the shadow to hide in. That is artificial recreation and redirection that is not organic and doesn't actually flow nicely with the whole. It's allowed to happen because it's a free will universe, you know. And in fact, what we're a part of right now is incorporates shadow, and we have form. Where, you know, if you look around anywhere at 3D reality, it's tangibly shown to us the truth that there's shape and form. There's angles, corners, vertices. There's rough edges and hard places, as well as smooth and open, you know, fluid. And so, again, it brings in a need for that. We can't have a cut and dry A, B, C solutions always. It has to be a dice roll. It has to be chance. It has to be done in the moment, you know. Because life is lived now. Everyone is an accumulation of the differentness up to the very moment. And so no matter the scenario, even if it's back to the mothering example with 2 different children, it's a great example because each child changes every day. They're different ages. Even if they're twins, they're different people, right? And they interpret their world through their own perspective. Each day they bump and learn different lessons off of the bumps that they've been through, and that changes, the dynamic of the scenario each time. And so it can't always be that same answer. Mathematics now. This is the other thing that I'm going to do a series on math. I think I might eventually. I've been clunkily making my way through a couple of videos, but not to anything that I think I would put up yet, that I feel happy enough with. But this is why some math I feel is, black and white dead math. It's done on 2 dimensions, and it reflects the past. It reflects scenarios in a vacuum that don't actually, they don't hold that much value when it comes to experiencing the now moment, because the now moment is quite magical, in fact. And I mean, when we have math, this is with all knowledge. It depends on how the creative consciousness, the observer, the one who is interpreting the information, the body vessel, who has the control, how they choose to intentionally use the information, knowledge and wisdom points that they already have upon their scatterplot graph, so to speak. And whatever they see, it lit up, matters most to them. And they create more of that in their own realities. They hear more things related to those things in their reality. Their reality, they choose to speak out about those things more often. And each person has their own scatterplot value going on in the internal world. And all points get accumulated sort of subconsciously, or whatever we want to, that's the most convenient word here, so let's not get caught up, sort of get recorded. And our likeness decides the bestowership of who we are decides what we like. And our points are, our play out of randomness, our sort of dice roll of who we are. We've already rolled it, so we know we have our set and setting already given when we're alive in this life because we're birthed into it. So there's certain parameters already set. You've already rolled some portion of your die, and you have a pathway given in front of you. It's how you play out all of those potentialities that are given through that pathway, that really matters. And to bring it into the math, and to think that if we're going to use stale, dead, old maths that works in a vacuum space only, and then try to cookie cutter our life and our now moments based on what are the parameters and the what those parameters show as the solutions only, or should be the best ones or aimed for, instead of actually listening and being aware of what's happening in the now moment, actually taking in lighting up the whole of the now moment, and seeing for the best as you can all the potentials and choosing the best from what's in front of you now. There's biases. We have these castings of light. We have these choices that we're already preemptively assuming or wanting, or choosing to just assess with more attention than others. Cognitive bias and all these things, blinding yourself from certain things, and liar loops come into play. There's so much going on in this reality that it's to have strong guidelines and tools to remember to hearken into to guide your life by is so helpful. So when we remember, actually, you know, all of those stringent rules and things, they don't really hold so much weight, as much weight. If you could use them in balance and in a positive lighting, holding the weight across the rest of the values that should be, you know, giving it proper place in the ratio proportionally that it deserves to the rest of the points that are available, then, you know, we would be closer to this clear interpretation that I'm trying to offer, and help myself to see and help all of us to really come to as a collective, because true solutions can really come out of these places when we start to see the world for what it is and understand that sort of the cookie cutter success stories and the just like industrialized public schools, getting all the multiple choice answers correct it's not about knowing those answers just to get the right answers. You know, it's actually about having the knowledge in your tool belt to use it when a problem arises, because the problem's not going to always look like the question and the answer is just not ABC. You know, it's much more than that. It's much more dynamic. It's much more malleable and fluid. And if we're not recognizing that with discernment, you know, we don't have the cognitive thinking skills to do these kind of problems when we've been mind controlled and forced into boxes. And also, same thing with math. And here we go, back to math and everything. You know, it's like I really have been lately appreciating this sort of breaking out of the rules. You know, we should know the rules to know to where they don't, to where you bend them, and to where they're not, sort of end all be all, right? But sometimes math makes it seem like, oh, you have to follow this all the time. It's like all based on rules, and I feel like that's such a great inversion. Because and it turns people off from math as well, because there's so many other things that are great about it and easy, and they're really intuitive and common sense, and you know, it makes sense. And I think people can't really or get turned away from it before they're really seeing that, or allow themselves to. You know, they and then they just say it's not for me. But a lot of times, you know, sacred geometry, phi, the golden ratio, a lot of these things catch people's eye in a different way, which is what happened with me, because I wasn't really a math person before. I didn't go through school loving math. I hated math. But numerology, personality numerology, was sort of a background hobby of mine as a teenager and through my 20s, sort of, as I started to wake up in different ways and gain other spectrum of knowledge, and through having my children grow up, you know, and I had, you know, I have children young, but this has taught me so much about what it is to share, what it is to how we really grow, what's really true sequential growth in math, and also what is about life, you know, that math actually does reflect life, and life in itself is symbiotic. It's, you know, same as I started talking about at the very start here about positive systems. You know, the organic matrix really operates from a positive system, and breaking away from negative constraints and basically mind control that it forces upon you to see them in this way has changed my reality. And I'm going to sort of wrap it up here by just saying that I do plan on to do a lot more talking on this, on all the topics that I brought up already here. Working through a visual blog of what I'm talking about with phi and organic creations versus inorganic archonic copying. And that will be sort of how to recognize the matrix nonsense and the plagiarized happenings, the lies and deceit, so that you can bring yourself back into organic light and truth and free-flowing freedom and operating from a sovereign point of your life, self-care and positivity, and to do things that are productive and beneficial for you and yours. Who doesn't want to do that and get to that? We don't need to enslave ourselves in the matrix, and we don't have to, it's not about just doing all these drastic movements to like excommunicate yourself either. It's about first finding freedom. Once you find freedom for yourself, the matrix bows down to you. The matrix breaks you out. The matrix pushes you out, in fact. And I used to talk about this a lot, about the buffer zone that gets created once you turn positive, once you realign your systems and you operate from a place of honest, positive service to others, positiveness. That negative matrix service to self, if there's a buffer zone, it gets you out as quick as possible. It cannot have truth inside there. Cannot be near it. Rings too true to the core. It will break their everythings. And so as soon as you start to operate from a positive place and do these self-care things, there will be a buffer zone, and it will X you out in different ways. But stay positive through it. Don't back out or bow down to their level or come back with negativity. Find what feels good for yourself. Remember, it's not 1.5. It's not cut and dry. It's not A or B. There's a million different opportunities out there. So find yourself things easily that create a bit of freedom, that get you back to things that build your light, make you happy. What are you good at? What fulfills you up? Go towards those things. And that you'll find your harmonious solutions. You'll be guided through that way. And I know I talked a lot about Mother Nature and that kind of energy here, but some people who are more, backgrounds in religion, they might prefer like God or whatever your sort of infinite intelligence is named. Feel free to feel like that is what you align with truth. That is the truth. It is, literally. For all is one, and one cannot be anything else. But going for whatever that is really how we all get out of these angular, mirrored fractalizational turnings, these, real turnarounds, wrong thing, dead end, whatever it is, these archonic bendings that are not the spiral. It's not the nice organic flow towards your center, flowing in towards the current, towards truth, towards what feels good. So get back to that, and you'll notice the freedom coming in. It'll sing to you. You'll find your way. And I'm talking mostly to myself here, as I speak to all others out there. But this podcast to NoWhere mostly a lot is brainstorming for myself. But thank you for listening, and thank you for your contribution to our collective. We wouldn't be the same without you. And if you're looking for anything in the meantime from me, you can find me at a.Marie.Speaks.com, always over there, or over on Telegram, a.Marie.Speaks, YouTube, and BitChute. Thank you for your time and your energy, and I will see you next time.